Good morning, YouTube. Is it possible to recall a cat?
But we're not recalling Neelix.
Like send it back to where it came, or
we're gonna push it back into her mom's
like in the road or
tummy?
something. I don't know where it came from off the road. I don't know because
she, not it. She.
The cat's very pregnant, and I do not want to deal with this.
Oh, she's so cute. She just like plumped onto the ground because she's so heavy now. So cute.
Very pregnant cat, but also. There may be some people regretting their automotive purchases because of recent recalls.
Right.
One big one made the news, and I thought it was funny how the media is treating it with the Kia Telluride.
Okay.
You probably heard it, like, park your Kia outside or it might burn to the ground and take your house and your whole family with it.
Scary, dangerous. I feel like maybe another competitive company is like putting that out there so people don't want
Pushing
Kias.
it, yes. It is a recall over a seat motor overheating because a switch can get weird or get stuck.
Right.
And then that motor will continue to run nonstop, overheat, and potentially catch fire and burn the car to the ground. But I don't see how it can happen spontaneously, like the switch just all of a sudden starts activating while the car's in the garage.
Right.
It says it gets stuck. So they say, out of abundance of caution, to park the car outside, just in case it does happen while they get the seat switch and the motor thing fixed. Right. But it's not a big deal.
Well, I could see how it'd be scary if, like, sometimes people's bedrooms are above the garage. So if you park in the garage and your bedroom's right there in the fire and the heat rises, and so your bedroom's the first one to get incinerated. So I could see how that could be scary for people whose bedrooms are there.
Hyundai and Kia wording this out of abundance of caution. They say this a lot. Park the car outside until we have this fixed because of a risk. And I feel like they might be the only person doing that because with your Ford recall on your baby Bronco, that is the fuel injectors breaking and then spraying and causing a fire. It doesn't say park it outside. At least I don't think so. It's not something that other automakers usually say, but I think Kia and Hyundai, I don't know, either in translation or just to cover themselves, say it, and then the media just really picks it up and just runs with it. Right. So, yeah, they're not paying too much attention to the Ford recall with your fuel injectors. They're not paying too much attention to Toyota's recall over their junk, metal shavings in the V6 engines, just basically sticking on automotive sites.
Right.
This one has gone mainstream, and I just don't get it.
I mean, if there's a slight chance, a possibility, they're trying to cover their tracks with it starting on fire in your house, in your garage. So I can see that, but there's like fear-mongering. Is that the correct term?
Absolutely. That is most definitely. So the last thing to really grab the headlines, I feel like, is the Tesla Cybertruck, the pedal braking, which I just sold mine, but the fix was a rivet in the pedal to keep the decorative cover to come loose and, getting stuck on the panel, and then you have an unintended acceleration, a la like Toyota 15 years ago. Yeah. And that's blown way out of proportion as well, because unlike in older cars where you can hit the gas and the brake at the same time, power brake or whatever, and if the gas is to the floor, then the brakes will eventually be overpowered by the engine. But you can't do that with a Tesla because you can't hit both at the same time. It defaults to the brake.
Really? Okay.
So it gets stuck. A moment's like, oh crap, and then you hit the brake and it stops.
That's cool.
It's not that dangerous, but they had to park the entire fleet of Cybertrucks and stop deliveries until this fix happened.
Right.
So, I just thought I would look it up in comparison to all the automotive recalls out there right now. The seat motor thing's kind of funny because I've overheated a seat motor myself when I was a little kid. What? The very first vehicle I ever encountered with seat motors was my grandpa's 92 or 93 Cadillac Seville.
Okay.
And I just thought it was so cool. So I'm sitting in the passenger seat. Well, in the garage.
Right.
They're inside, just moving it back and forth. Just making the seat go.
Some of those seats move like 26 different ways.
It was just old school, up, down, back, forth. And I'm just doing over and over and over again. And eventually it slows down. I'm starting to smell something. And I'm like, what the heck? And then it stops. And then it doesn't have heated seats, but my ass is getting really hot.
Really?
And there's smoke under there. And I realized...
There's actually smoke.
Yes. I smoked the motor on their power seat in their brand new Cadillac Seville. So this is 92, 93. I'm 7, 8 years old, something like that. Yeah.
That's crazy. Wait, so what did you do? Did you tell your grandparents or did you just pretend like it didn't happen?
Much like my 11-year-old daughter does to us. Yeah. Not a word about the thing that I have just destroyed. Not a word.
Did they ever find out?
No, because I left the car alone. It didn't burn to the ground in the garage. And, they hopped back in, and to that Cadillac's credit, the motor cooled off. And it worked.
Stop it.
I'm sure I dramatically shortened its life,
Right.
but that's somebody else's problem down the road. That obviously the North Star would have exploded, and the engine's way gone before that seat motor probably died anyway.
Oh,
But
I'm
yes.
surprised that it got hot. Like actually got hot, and you could
Yes.
feel it through the seats.
Yes.
Which makes this Kia recall a little legitimate, perhaps.
I suppose, but like I said, the recalls, there's a lot scarier sounding ones out there. And Kia and Hyundai have a lot. So the most recent one, this is on Kelly Blue Book's website as far as their most recent ones. The alternator battery positive terminal nut may loosen, which can result in an engine stall or electrical surge.
Dangerous, scary.
Tighten a nut. Like, why even drive into the dealership to have them check this? But it can cause an electrical surge, which is an increased risk of fire, or an engine stall. Obviously, you don't want to stall out in the middle of the road or whatever. But yeah, the nut's loose.
Okay.
Ford. Their Expedition and Lincoln Navigator, blower motor failure. So that nice cool or warm air into the cabin.
Right.
That can fail and cause an interior fire in the vehicle when it shorts out. So they will replace the blower motor assembly on 2015 to 2017 Expeditions and Navigators free of charge.
It could cause a fire, actually cause.
Correct. That's a
scary.
lot more serious than,
Yeah.
than, say, the seat motor thing. But do they say park your car outside until you get it fixed? No.
Well, they're saying because you're not really leaving it on, or it doesn't like magically stay on
Same with the seats.
overnight.
Same with the seats. Yeah. So, Ford again, 2017 to 2020, 2020. Wow, that's a lot of 20s. That's the way into the future. The 2017 to 2020 Super Duty trucks, the camera lens coating can get foggy or cloudy.
Right.
And then you can't see out of backup cameras and things.
I feel like
So,
all backup cameras kind of get like that after a while.
a lack of rear view camera can reduce the driver's visibility and increase the risk of a crash. So they will replace the camera free of charge.
Okay, not bad.
Then 2013 to 2015 Chevy Sparks and Spark EVs. It just keeps going. The secondary hood latch, so you pop the hood and then you have the safety latch, that can corrode and fail. And then say you accidentally had pulled the hood latch, that won't grab it because it's rusty, flies up.
It's like a Dumb and Dumber moment, right?
Right.
Jake, don't you have a Spark?
A Spark EV.
I'm trying not to have a Spark EV.
Okay.
Right, he's abandoning it. He just posted a video of his massive failure with that. Yes. So they'll replace that latch free of charge.
See, Jake, they're going to replace it for you.
Oh, good.
So you can
Yay!
keep it.
The car doesn't move, so it can't blow the hood latch up. But then the Palisade, Hyundai Palisade,
Right.
luxury vehicle, another risk of fire in the tow hitch harness module.
Whoa.
Moisture accumulation inside the tow hitch and the electrical stuff, all that stuff, it can short out and cause a fire. And it says here, Hyundai, once again, owners are advised to park their car outside.
What?
See, it's just something that Hyundai and Kia, I guess they like to
But
do.
it's like I wouldn't want to park it outside because then more moisture is going to get in it from, random rain, mist, dew, moisture, humidity. Anything is just going to make it worse.
Well, you want to see something that would be frustrating if you were a Subaru person.
Uh-oh.
2017 and 2019, they're recalling Impreza headlights because the reflectors in the headlights are not reflective enough. And if you want your headlights, not the part that turns on, but just the part when the vehicle's off or
Right.
whatever, it doesn't catch enough of the, to reflect enough back. They realized this, the NHTSA realized this and said, hey, you need to replace all the headlights in those Subarus.
Really?
So,
Is there just
yeah,
like a Karen that's being really picky for some
very
reason at Subaru?
expensive. Yeah, very expensive recall for Subaru to have to replace headlights on old Subarus, yeah.
Right.
So it just keeps going. F-150, there's drive shaft. There's a little heat shield around it with the exhaust that falls in the drive shaft. It can cause problems, make noise. They want to fix that. And then GM recalls the 21 to 22 Escalade, Suburban, Tahoe, and Yukon.
Not the Escalade.
I know. It's seatbelt brackets. The buckle mount can break, so that's an actual safety recall.
Right.
So they want to address that in the third row seat.
Okay.
So,
See that?
and this is within the last week.
Wait, all
Yeah.
these recalls were announced this
Right.
past week.
Yeah, there's, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, and that's all the recalls just in a recent span of time. And for whatever reason, this watch makes a lot of noise. But for whatever reason, that is the one that got picked up just
Right.
because of the wording of the fire risk, even though it's nothing.
No, nothing. So if you had one, you would feel comfortable parking it in the garage?
Put it in the garage.
Really? Okay.
Put it in the garage.
Yeah.
The seat, it's not going to spontaneously just start moving back and the motor's going to overheat and then that's going to cause a fire. It's silly. Silly. The one that scares me in my own collection of cars that spontaneously burn to the ground, my Aston Martin Vanquish.
Okay.
That one is the car that burned to the ground on Pierce Brosnan. So the last Bond movie that Brosnan was in, he drove a Vanquish. It had the cloaking device and all that stuff. They gave him a car. He had it for, I don't know, 15 plus years before it was just parked in his garage one day, just caught fire, burned to the ground. And he kept the little plaques. I think I've talked about this before. That's the one that scares me. All the old hoopties, all the old British with the wiring and stuff like that, just one day, I feel like...
But what is it about the Is it the Vanquish specifically, how it was wired, that it's a little more dangerous? Or Aston Martin in general?
Just old British wiring.
Okay.
And then I've had a few cars catch fire. My first car actually caught fire. My 500 SL Mercedes.
What? What happened?
So I was driving at this point, but my grandmother's car was in the shop. It was still her car, but I was driving.
Right.
And so she said, hey, I need the Mercedes to drive because my car's getting fixed. This was her Cadillac CTS that she's having issues with. And she was driving it to her friend's house, and the starter stuck. So she went to start the car, except the starter just kept going. The motor's trying to turn on. It's spinning. It's hitting on the flywheel. The starter won't disengage.
Right.
And there's smoke pouring out from under the hood. She calls me and says, Tyler, the car's about to catch fire. It's smoking. It's burning and all this stuff. Like, does anybody call the neighbors? Like, what's it doing? It's the starter's stuck. It won't turn off. It's like, we'll have someone disconnect the battery. Like, we don't have tools. We'll just cut the cable. Oh, tell them to cut the cable. Like, get the garden loppers and cut the cable. And that's what happened to her to get the starter to cut off. And just smoked the starter and the flywheel. Thankfully, it didn't engulf the car.
Is that like a common thing? I've never heard that happening. Ever. That's the first time.
I haven't encountered it since. So that was a one-off thing.
That's really unusual. Did something stick, or did they ever figure out what the problem was?
Well, it replaced the starter, but by then the starter was completely annihilated and the flywheel actually stood up. We didn't have to replace the flywheel. I think it has one dead spot in the flywheel where once every, I haven't encountered it in years, but when I was driving it every day, once every month or so, it hit where that one tooth in the flywheel was gone and it goes zzz, it wouldn't catch on the flywheel. Which you're nodding like I know.
Tell me more about flywheels.
Oh, it's nothing to worry about. Yeah, so that's I've had plenty of cars catch fire, and I would not worry about the Kia Telluride with the seat switch. Yeah.
Unless you have an 8-year-old Tyler Hoover playing with it.
All right. Thank you so much for watching.
Tell me more about flywheels.
What? What?
You just sound really hot.